I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Bakar Kadash, for giving me the spirit to do this video. Let's jump right to it. Daniel chapter 3, starting at verse 1. I'm going to go into this whole chapter because this whole chapter right here, man, really highlights faith, man, and what it can do and the power of it. All right? So Daniel 3, starting at verse 1. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king set together the princes, the governors, and the captains, and the judges, and the treasurers, and the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of this province. So everybody that was basically part of his cabinet, part of his government body. He got them all together, all right, to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the princesses, the governors, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald cried aloud, To you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, the flute, harp, the sackbut, the psaltery, dulcimer, and all the kinds of music, you fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Verse 6. And whoso falleth not down and worship shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace, man. And you know what it reminds me of when you think about the mark of the beast? It says, he that does not worship the beast shall be killed, man. Okay, so that persecution is going to come against all Israel. Okay, just a little point. Verse 7. Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, the flute, the harp, the sackbut, the psaltery, and all kinds of music, all the people, the nations, and the languages fell down and worshipped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Wherefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, the flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worship, that he should be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Verse 14. Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that not you serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if you be ready, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, the harp, the sackbut, the psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, but if you worship not, you shall be cast the same hour into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is that God, that power, that shall deliver you out of my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our power, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace. He will deliver us out of thy hand, O king. Now that's faith right there. They already had it set in their mind like, look, man, if you put us in that furnace, we have faith that our power is going to deliver us out of that furnace, man, out of that fire, okay? You got to think about it, man. These are regular people like you and me, okay? Israelites that believe in their power. And they knew the power, man. They knew the type of power that they were connected to if they just believe and keep faith, man. Okay? Keep that in mind. Verse 18. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spoke and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was wont to be heated. Okay, and that 7 represents any number, man. So in other words, it got real hot. Okay, they made it real hot. That was his commandment, man. Okay, to make it beyond hot. Verse 20, he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace, man. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the mix of the burning fiery furnace, man. But remember the conversation that they had with Nebuchadnezzar, man. It was like, look, we believe our power can get us out of this situation. That's where it started, faith. Okay, because say, for example, they were just scared and terrified and they had no faith at all. They thought they were done. Would the Most High save them? No, because they didn't have faith, man. Okay, Yahweh Shem Shai wants you to trust in him, man. Trust. It's about trust and faith. Okay, and then when you have that trust and have that faith, man, anything is possible unto you, as the scriptures say. Okay? Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen in their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the mix of the burning fiery furnace. Verse 22. Therefore, because the king's commandments was urgent, and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flames of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, man. So they made it beyond hot just for themselves to get burned up, man. That was judgment, man, for messing with the Lord's people. Okay, the people that trust in him. All right? Verse 23. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound into the mix of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished and rose up in haste and spake and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast three men bound into the mix of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Look, I see four men loose walking in the mix of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the fourth is like the son of Yahweh. Right, man. Okay, Yahweh Shai, the top angel, to save them, man. The fire had no power against them, man, at all. It had no power because of faith, man. That's why the scriptures say, put on the shield of faith. Matter of fact, let me get it. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 16. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith you shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. Right, man, the shield of faith. That's what they had, man. They had that shield. They had that protection. Okay? So they were saved. All right? They were shielded. Okay? Back at Daniel chapter 3, verse 26. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the mix of the fire. And the princesses, governors, and captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whom bodies the fire had no power. Whew. Wow, man. Okay. Now, when you think about when the scriptures say the righteous shall be scarcely saved, there's many situations, man, where a man of the Lord, okay, during these last days, when the nukes drop, the fire could go over his body, okay, but he don't even burn, man. And then a chariot come out of nowhere and just beat him up. Just to show his power, man. Yahweh Shem Shai is about to show their power on a high, epic level, man. Period. All right? Verse 27. And the princesses, governors, and captains, and the king's counselors being gathered together, saw these men upon whose body the fire had no power, nor was a hair of their head seen, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. So they weren't burnt at all, okay? The fire didn't do nothing, man. It did zero. Verse 28. Then Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any God except their own God. Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, golly, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. Now, Nebuchadnezzar is an enemy, okay, for him even to set this up, right? But as a scripture, I'm going to get it. Proverbs 16, verse 7, it says, when a man's ways pleases the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. Okay? So by them pleasing the Lord and that miracle happened, Nebuchadnezzar got scared. He's like, oh man, they got the real power, man. Okay? They got that real power, man. And that's why he said this back at verse 29, Daniel 3. Therefore I'll make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay, this is an example of making the enemy be at peace with you because you please the Lord, all right? Shall be cut in pieces, their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon, man. They had favor with him after that, man, because he saw the power, okay? And the whole world's about to see that power, man, all right? But the Spirit had me going to this lesson because faith is important, man. Faith is a core of this truth. It's the foundation of this truth, man, okay? You can know a lot of things. You can know a lot of knowledge, okay? A lot of information. But if your faith ain't correct with that information, you're going to die. You're not going to make it, man. So keep that core, keep that foundation attached, man. And understand that what? If you have your faith, man, and that shield of faith, carry that shield of faith with you every day and watch. Okay, you're going to see miracles, man. Miracles, things are just going to happen, all right? Yahweh Shema Shah is going to make it known, like, look, I'm dealing with you. Keep going. Keep your foot on the gas of faith, man. All right? With that, I hope all you brothers will edify around the world, and all you sincere sisters. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Wakar Kadash, for giving me the spirit to do this video. Double honors to the elders of Great Millstone, and shalom to all you brothers out there that's doing the truth and sincerity. Shalom.